All right, we're going to try this again. I don't know what happened. We had some technical difficulties, which we had, 2 weeks ago? You probably don't know that, but 2 days in a row we went sideways. And not the normal sideways. So I'm going to pull this up to make sure everybody's on. Thank you guys for your patience. It's all about Ted and his technology. But I heard that there was a Facebook Live glitch, and that's what was happening. So look, I think we're straight now, or as straight as we can be. Look at that lighting, though. We look like we're angelic.
And where? Angelic?
Angelic, right?
That will probably be
all right,
the only time we ever
that is the only time. I'm making that up. Yeah, like the light just went down. But, we look like we're lit beautifully. So if it goes sideways again, though, we're going sideways. And as long as you can see the beautiful Christina Felix, we're in good shape. So let me know if you can hear us. That's another thing. Thank you guys for your patience. Hey, look, Carrie's on there. Happy late birthday. Thanks, Jerry. Can you guys hear us okay? That's really my biggest concern, because we want to get as much of Christina's story in there as possible. Hey, Sarah, thank you. Sarah's awesome. She and I work together at the new company, Fairway. So they were here yesterday. All right, so let's talk a little bit about you and how we met. Right. So we had to. So I know her husband. I know Dan Felix, and we made a pact that we were going to talk too much about Dan because he doesn't like the attention like I do. Maybe he does. Jason needs a glass. Yes, and by the way, this is a drink before we get too crazy and we forget. Maggie from the club created this drink this morning. It's Tito's, limoncello, and raspberry vodka. I'm sorry, limoncello and a splash of something. And we're calling it a pink elephant. Cheers. We'll talk about that soon. And it's rimmed with it's a cotton candy rim. Isn't that awesome? Diane, we are twinsies right now, but we planned it that way. Although my pink, look at that, it looks almost white.
I know, it matches your outfit so well.
So interesting. All right, so we met because of Dan, and we met at an Aura function, and you reminded me where that was. We were at the Grand Bohemian on a whiskey something night, and I wasn't sure what was going on, and then I didn't even know Dan had a wife, probably. You probably didn't know I had a wife. You probably didn't know I had a wife once we met. Cheers, Carrie. And we hit it off.
We had a common love of wine.
We had a common love of wine, but we also, how you connect with somebody immediately? And I think Dan was like, seriously, Ted, why are you hanging out with my wife so much?
Yep. And from that night on, anytime he invited me somewhere, I was like, is Ted going to be there? Because he brings the good stuff.
Oh, she's very kind. She's a good Italian girl bringing that. But yeah, we hit it off, and there was something super magical about that. Yeah, and then we continued, except I messed up. And the second time that we saw each other, she came up to me. It was probably another Aura function, and she said, do you remember me? And I go, yes, you're Mrs. Felix. I couldn't remember her first name. I'm going to take the heat for that. And then she called me right out on the carpet. She said, you don't know my first name. What's my first name? Did I answer, or did I just, under my breath, try to say something?
No, you were like, you got me.
You were very kind.
I was like,
yeah, I couldn't pretend. Yeah, I don't know why. Why did I not remember that? Old age?
I know when we had met at the first thing, we were talking, somebody had come up to you and was talking to you about something, and you were like, I can't even tell you who that was.
Oh yeah, that happened.
And I was like, well, you are going to remember me. Next time I see you, you will remember me. And
I did remember you. I just missed the first name part of it.
Yeah, that's okay. Look at us now.
Look at us now. And look, we wore pink today, and there's a whole theme about that. And she looks beautiful. You should definitely, at some point at the end, show them your skirt. And we definitely have the lighting's funny because it's all cloudy right now, but she looks amazing, and our drinks do match. And there's a theme, and one of the reasons why I had asked you actually early on if you'd come on the show to tell your story, and you wanted to wait until October because it's Breast Cancer Awareness Month, and that was important. And I thought, you know what, she's right. That's an awesome place to be, because I believe that your story is amazing. But let's get a little bit of history on you. Married, 2 beautiful children.
Yes, Ethan is 7, and then I have Stella. She's 3 years old. And really, parenting has been really the greatest of all challenges to me, even having had cancer, which we'll talk about here in a few minutes. But Yes, I have two beautiful children. They are challenging. They help me grow in many ways that I never knew I could grow. And married to my husband, we just celebrated our 10-year anniversary.
Happy anniversary.
9/30. Yes, thank you. That's a good way to. And we just have an amazing support system around us. So I can't say enough about our family and all of my friends that have really kind of embraced us during this past year of me going through and being diagnosed with breast cancer.
So talk a little bit about how that transpired, because it's a kind of humorous story.
Yes.
A little bit, not really humorous.
Yes. So I was very anti self-breast exams all of my life. And during a church service, our pastor was speaking about a lot of things that I really wasn't paying all of attention to. But he started to speak about a former family that was planting a church in Colorado, and the wife, the woman, Kara Tippett is her name. She has many books. She's an author. She's amazing. She had just passed away March 2015. And he was just talking about her life and all of the ways that, you know, she really embraced and found joy even in the heart of having cancer. And so I just grew very much fascinated with her and her story. And I felt that day I really heard God's voice telling me, okay, you need to do your exams. You need to do them
because
every
you had
day.
no history, you had no family history.
I had no family history, and I've always been like a person of like, you know, when people say, oh, God has spoke to me, I've always been a little like side eye, like, how does that sound? Like,
right.
What is that like? But I really can tell you, like, 110% that I know that day. The only point that I listened to in that passage was when he was talking about Kara Tippett and her family and going through cancer, and I knew at that time that I needed to start doing daily self-exams. So then fast forward a little bit, that was in around March or April of 2015, and then in December of that year, and I had started to do my own self-breast exams. I really hated the way that they felt because they were just like lumpy, all the, you know, they're just lumpy, and it's not a good feeling. I just personally don't like I didn't like the way that they felt. So fast forward, I started doing them, and then December 30th of 2015, I went in for my regular gynecological exam, and my doctor was checking me, nothing was found. So I took like January off, and I was like, okay, well, December was fine. That was the end of December. January, I'm not going to do it. Then February 14th, Valentine's Day, I was in my bed. My husband wasn't giving me any attention, so I decided, you know, let's fill myself up that day.
That's the part that makes me laugh. I'm sorry.
So literally, on that day is when I found, you know, the unfortunate lump. And I have a tendency to overreact.
Well, don't you feel like in this day and age we feel something and automatically we go to Google and then we're dying?
Don't ever do that.
We self-diagnose.
Exactly.
Or it's the worst possible thing on the planet. You've got a cough and now you have dengue fever, right? So,
oh my gosh, terrible.
But in this particular case, it was good that you were a proponent and on top of it.
Right. And my doctor actually told me that one of the best ways of being able to like identify lumps, because I used to do them like laying down, sitting up, in the shower, wherever, is really to like be sitting up and to like feel around. And that's why it's so important really to get to know what your normal is, because for me it took a very long time to figure out that what was abnormal by the time I caught it, I probably could have caught even sooner if I had an understanding of what my normal was. But it took like, I mean, I think by the time that I found it, it was already at like 6 millimeters or something. It was very large for cancer in the breast, my oncologist had said. So things just kind of really, you know, then it was biopsy, then it came back positive for invasive ductal carcinoma. I was like a stage 2, stage 3. My treatment plan really was like, all right, we're going to do chemo, then we're going to do mastectomy, then we're going to do radiation. I wasn't given a ton of options during that time.
So what's going on in your mind? I was going to say, so it becomes so overwhelming. So you've seen 1,000 movies about it, TV shows about it, everything else, and then you're in the throes of it. So you get the diagnosis, and they say, "Here's your plan." Like you said, no options. What do you think immediately? Like, what's your first thought? How am I going to? First thing I would think is, how am I going to handle this with everything else I have going on?
Right. Well, so I just was like, okay, if this is the best course of action, like, let's go. You know, I was just like, let's do it, because there's no point in putting it off. Hindsight 2020, I probably would have tried to look into maybe other things, but it was just, I felt devastated, and this was what was presented to me, and that, you know, they said with this gives you like your greatest chances of surviving this, you know. So, so I just said, all right, let's do it. I got my port. I had a port put in March 9th, and then from there...
So it's that fast. So you self-diagnosed February 14th.
Well, yeah, that's when I found my lump. Then I had my biopsy the 24th. I got my results on leap year the 29th. The 29th. I'm so bad about these things. But, and then, March 9th, my port was put in. March 24th was my first chemo. August 11th was my last chemo. Then September 12th, I had the double mastectomies. And then we started reconstruction at that time also. And then that following year, in February, I started radiation. Had 28 days of that. Finished that on March 17th of this year. So I'm still currently undergoing reconstruction, which honestly I thought was going to be the easier of all of the treatments. You know, I thought like, okay, you know, they put some expanders in, they fill it up, and then, you know, you get stretched out. And for whatever reason, that didn't register with me as how much of a toll it was really going to take on my body.
So your body, though, going up to that, it's not like, so the way you describe it, it's very matter of fact, because you're giving what happened, but there's a whole bunch of stuff going on as you're going through the chemo, as you're dealing with you had a double mastectomy, right?
Right.
As you're then going through radiation and then have to deal with the reconstruction, you still have Dan, the kids, family, business. You're still trying to lead as much of a normal life as you possibly can.
Right.
Which takes I have not been there, but it just seems like, what do you attribute to the fact that you were able to go, all right, so I have to have this, and I'm going to get through it, because every single time we talk about it, your positive attitude is what comes shining through, and I think that really is, I believe, a lot to do with how people's healing process is.
Right, so for me, totally and 100% it was my faith. I really feel that God, you know, from the time that I was diagnosed, I felt all of my circumstances and supports were orchestrated by His hand. I felt that, you know, I ended my career in child welfare February of 2016 prior to getting diagnosed. My husband that year prior received, you know, a promotion through his work that allowed me to take on a new business adventure in real estate. I had just passed my real estate exam, and then here we go. It's like cancer is a full-time job. The doctors will say it's the chemo and everything, you know, in between that. I mean, it takes you away from your life, and you do develop, you know, that appreciation for the days when you feel good or the days when you can have, you know, a good attitude. But I always tried, and I feel blessed by God from this, that He gave me an attitude of look at what we have to be thankful for. Focus on those things.
Gratitude.
Focus on, yes, being thankful. And being a Christian, I know that even in the darkest, ugliest, tragic times, you know, God promises you, if you are a believer, that there will be good from this. There is always a good that will come from this. It might not look like how you think it should or how you want it to, but the big thing is that His ways are always greater, and His knowledge is unsurpassing anything that we can even think of or fathom. So for me, I just cling to that. I couldn't see, you know, all the good that was going on all the time every day, but what was going to come from the cancer, but I knew that like he provided for me a support system. He provided for me health insurance. There was always provision, even in the tragic of a diagnosis of breast cancer and having 2 little kids and thinking like.
How do you do so? Dan did get on. Her wonderful husband Dan and said, by far my favorite guest. She's awesome. I know, and you look so good. I don't know why. I feel like we're all lit up. Maybe that's the heavens coming down. You bring the light. But you still have to be mommy, wife.
Yeah.
Wife's easier to deal with, I think. Mommy, they don't,
I don't know.
Oh, yeah. Sorry, Dan. I was trying to help you out there, but how do you explain to the kids? Like, what's your thought process?
So, there was lots of books that I was like, who wrote this? Because that's not going to work for my kid, trying to like tell them how my boobs are getting chopped off, or why I'm losing my hair.
Good.
Yeah. So my son was most aware because he was just 5 years old when I was diagnosed, and then losing the hair. My son really has a difficult time adjusting to any kind of change, and losing the hair for him was like, you're not my mom anymore. Like that's where that's his identity of me was like, in part my hair and what I looked like. And so, I bought a lot of wigs because I love fashion. I love to play around. I was like, if I'm going to lose my hair, I'm going to be able to have a lot of different hairstyles, and, I'm just going to have fun with it. And so I let him help me name like all the different wigs. And like, okay, this is Candy. I know some of them might sound like stripper, but they're not.
No, it's all right. Well, wigs kind of have that thought process. But you involved him.
That's the process.
But I think that's so awesome, because I think that what happens is in any process, in anything that parents are going through, they don't realize the kids are more perceptive than they are, and I believe that involving him, I'm sure, wasn't necessarily always the best thing, but overall, getting him involved, naming a wig, that's kind of a cool idea.
And then, we had like personalities for it. Like we would say, what does she like to do? Oh, she likes to shop, and we would have like different little fun ways, and it's just it's very personal for each person, and there's no right way to do it. It's very much like your family, your kids. Like how can they know that this is impacting them, but feel like the least affected by it? I guess
Correct.
Was what I wanted for my child. So while he knew that like the medicine was doing a lot of bad things, because that's what he would see outwardly. It's like, oh, well, you're losing your hair and you're tired and you can't do this or that. He also knew that like, okay, you're going to get through this, you're fighting, like, he could understand a lot more than I even really understood,
They are
about
perceptive.
It. Very much.
Allowing him that probably will stick with him forever. I think that's awesome.
Yeah.
Making them part of the process as much as you can, and making it so that it's relatable to them or something that they can do. Because you're right, you don't want to have the books. I've seen those books. Yeah, you don't want mommy's boobs got chopped off.
Yeah.
That's not.
I mean, that might work for some people.
For some.
I don't want to say. I try to be very respectful of how everyone experiences their journey and how they share it and what decisions they make. This is really my personal, how I handle things and what's worked for, me and my family.
And now where are you now?
So now I have to have, I'm still going through reconstruction on my right side, because when you have the mastectomies, they start the reconstruction process by putting the expanders in.
Right.
And then you go through several months of the expansion process. And so they like you, if you're going to do radiation, they want you to do it while the expanders are in, because radiation has a tendency to shrink and damage the skin. So after I finished radiation, everything was looking good, but then I developed a small little bump that got progressively larger and discolored, and my plastic surgeon basically said, oh, my expander was pushing through the skin, like the skin was so damaged. He attempted to go in and fix it after I got the implants exchanged, the expanders exchanged out for the implants. He attempted to go back in and fix it, but the skin was still not taking. So probably the last week of October, I will have had my fourth surgery, where I'll exchange out this expander for hopefully my last and final implant, because the damaged skin has been taken out, and then they took a part out of my back, muscle, fat, and skin, and they replaced that with where the damaged skin was. So everything is holding well and looks well now.
And each of those procedures, so it's not like you just go in the doctor, you cough, and they give you an antibiotic.
Right.
It's actually a process. And I love how you're framing it, but I think people need to understand that every single time you go in,
yeah.
it's a surgery, it's a procedure.
Yes.
And there's recovery time, and there's things you have to do, which also
Yes.
then again, you've got to figure out how to maneuver that through your life.
Right. And so, I mean, for me, like, primarily, I think, like, having an amazing support system really helped pull me through those times, because I couldn't be, like, you know, full-time mom every day going through all this stuff. And then, you know, Dan's job, Fairwinds Credit Union, has a great, like, leave of absence, you know, FMLA program, and they were wonderful to him during that time, and allowed for him to, like, kind of give them, you know, sometimes it was short notice, because the doctor would say, oh, we want to address this right now because it can lead to an infection, and we might have to, like, take your implant out here in the office. And I'm like,
that does not sound fun.
Yeah, I was like, no. And then drains, that's another thing that was terrible, was like they have to hook up these like long tubes and drains because whenever your body's facing any kind of trauma, it sends like fluid right to that area.
Yes.
And the backup of fluid can create infection and all kinds of things. So they have these drains in you, and that was like a whole nother kind of like.
So where are you at? So you're on the you still have another procedure surgery.
Yes, I have one more.
How are you, like, scan-wise, and where are you at?
So I haven't had any scans done since I was initially diagnosed. I do have one scheduled for December because they wanted me to get through all of the surgeries and everything. But my oncologist, you know, they do blood work quarterly. That is really only to check and see if there's any breast cancer tumor markers, is what they call them, the blood work that they do. But it doesn't check for, like, let's say I had precancer cells that could be traveling in my body right now that's not picked up on a scan, that's going to lead to some other type of cancer, lung, brain, bone, you know, liver, kidney, whatever, any organ it can attack. So that's the part where I like to encourage people to be very proactive, you know, in your health. I mean, you can kill yourself trying to find the right diet. I was never someone that, you know, tried to, like, completely eliminate one or anything from my diet, because it's like you watch one documentary, it says one thing. You watch another one, and by the end of the documentary, yeah, you're like, I can't eat nothing.
Right. Water.
Yeah.
Maybe alcohol.
Right. Well, I was never.
Hello. We weren't giving that up, were we?
Yeah. No. Sorry. Like, I'm gonna enjoy my life and live it, you know.
And that's what I think is what you've done, and I think, I don't know, that's the power that I think you have and what you give out to the world. You are just so incredibly positive. We have a whole bunch of people who have said the same thing. So, but when you're like that, I believe, whatever our faith is, that the world, God, everybody else responds. People respond to that. And it doesn't mean that it's perfect or that you are not feeling pain or don't have bad, crazy days. It just means that you get through your days and go to the next and are appreciative.
Yeah. Well, you try to be, and then I've talked to you about this before, but then there's always a sense of like their survivorship guilt. Like when I heard the story about the keratipathy prior to even being diagnosed with the cancer, I became like obsessed with like how she was carrying so much joy and grace in such a, I mean, she had 4 kids, 36 years old, like, why is this happening? That doesn't make sense,
right.
Like, she's a great person, and then you think, even before I was diagnosed, I thought, like, oh my gosh, like, how does that happen to someone that has such a great, like, relationship with God and is doing so much good in the world? You think, why this person? But to me, and it's been something that I've always, kind of struggled with, is like, am I living my days as the best that I can? Like, am I giving enough time to my kids or my husband or my family or my community? Like, am I doing everything that I could possibly do to live well? And the answer is no. Like, I'm not perfect, and I still have days where I'm not thankful, and I still have days where, I am self-serving, self-indulging.
Well, it's overwhelming, so you should, I mean, and I know you do, you have to allow yourself those days. You can't be perfectly upbeat, happy, grateful every single day and every moment of every day. And I think a lot of cancer survivors or people going through cancer that I've spoken with, once they realized that they could allow themselves to have those moments, that was powerful for them in their journey, because they were so hard on themselves, and they also thought, well, God, if I have one day of negative, then all the negative's going to come in, and all of my positives going to go out the door,
right.
And that's not the case, because we're human,
exactly.
Right? We're human,
exactly.
so.
And you're right, and I have, even said that to myself, like, going through all this and being in the place that I'm at now, I have learned to be very conscientious about what am I thinking. What am I telling myself? Am I allowing like these negative thoughts or these, feelings to like control my happiness or enjoy these moments? And I think it's very important to always, be conscientious of what is the dialogue going on inside of your mind. What are you telling yourself? Even when you're driving in the car, like, are you, because I have road rage too sometimes. I'm like, what the?
No doubt. You almost like, did it. We haven't broken that rule yet.
I know. But it's like, whatever it could be, it's like we have a choice in how we respond.
Yes.
We have a choice, like, in what we give power to. And to me, it's like, I'm not going to let somebody that's having a bad day take my joy, like, and people have even said to me, I get more compliments now, like, having gone through, like, cancer, like, physical or, like, whatever wise, and I'm like, cancer has totally, like, revamped my whole, I would never take away the experience of having to go through that to get to where I'm at, is basically the bottom line. Because it has brought me to a person of being more aware of, like, things I need to work on, things that I am good at, and appreciating, what I have, and trying to be, content in that.
Has it changed how you are with the kids? Has it changed your parenting?
A little bit. Like, I do feel like I am more like what I think before I say, and I think before I act. Yeah. It's not like before I would just be like, this is how it is, and I'm the adult, and now I'm more like, I have asked and I prayed for God to like guide me in that way, and I feel that He really has, and like gives me the moments to be like, okay, Christina, think about what you're about to say and how that's going to affect them, because both of my children are very different. So it's hard when I have to put on that hat,
sure,
like, of discipline.
Right.
What's going to work for one doesn't work for the other, and what I do for my son Ethan might, or what I do for my daughter Stella might translate to my son Ethan in a different way.
Correct.
Emotionally.
But you're cognizant of that.
Yeah.
Which is awesome.
Yeah. But then you're also cognizant of like how not great you're doing when you're doing that too.
And you also have to be cognizant of the fact that in the scheme of things,
right,
is what's going on with them or whatever they did that might need
right,
discipline really impactful, and how am I going to handle that? I think everyone I've ever talked to, it's like, okay, so that daily thing, that little thing that I might have gotten mad or upset about or focused on, that's not so important. it doesn't mean that you're perfect like that every day.
Right.
None of us are. Oh, you're nice and chilly. We have a couple of comments.
Okay.
Sarah Alvers, who is amazing. She's a new friend. Thanks for your story. Your story can help the next person diagnose. It's different for everyone, and you're handling it beautifully.
Oh, thank
Jerry
you.
McDaniel says, strength willing, another ministry awaits her to help others who are on a similar path.
Amen. Thank you, Jerry.
Such great comments. I wish I could read everyone's comments. So we're getting past our time, but I want to talk about Pink Elephant because we haven't.
Oh yes, Pushing Pink Elephants, PPE.org. Pushing PP Elephant.
We'll get you the right
I'm so
one.
sorry. I'm so sorry because I'm totally messing this up. But when I was diagnosed, a very close friend of mine, Carrie Stamler, I call her Bubbles, hooked me up with.
She's on here, I think, right?
Yeah. Hooked me up with an amazing woman who's been such an inspiration to me, and she actually is a co-founder of an organization called Pushing Pink Elephants. And so I'm doubling up on my bracelets this month. I'm going to wear them every day. There's a walk actually also on October 22nd. I think it's called Pink on Parade out of Celebration. I'll be doing that and wearing my bracelets. But Pushing Pink Elephants is an organization that so basically when I was diagnosed, my friend Erin had already gone through this whole journey, and she had this organization, and they have these things called chemo baskets. And so like you can sign up a friend, and it's the whole like intention and philosophy behind it is amazing because I'm someone who loves to like receive gifts. I mean, I could never like.
Why we get
I
along
love to,
so well.
Yes. I love to get gifts. So she like, you know, her organization will prepackage all these different various things, and she like encouraged me like when you're having like a sad or down day, you know, open one, it'll like lift you up. And they came with
What a
like,
great idea.
oh my gosh, they came with, but everything was very intentional. Like I got a Believe mug that like lots of children at a church, you know, helped hand paint, and that's like one of my favorites. And then she like has these like salt. I don't want to tell everybody what's in the basket because then if you try to open it, you're not going to be surprised.
Oh, that's right.
But
So
I mean,
tell
there's
them-
amazing things in the basket, and
That's
so
awesome.
it's an organization that talks about resources, that talks about how you can, you know, be proactive in prevention. It talks about, you know, good things you can do with your diet. It talks about exercise. I mean, it's just like, you know, and they partner with, they're not about like reinventing the wheel. They really partner with other organizations who have like done certain things that they know, tried and true, tested, are helpful when you're going through the chemo or you're going through the radiation or, you know, whatever it is. And so that's why, you know, I asked Ted today if we could do a special cocktail.
Little pink drink. I know the lighting's interesting, but it was pink.
And tell them what's in it. Did you tell them
So
already?
it's Tito's, limoncello, and it's raspberry vodka,
So good.
limoncello, and some kind of splash of something.
Yes,
I think
it's a
cranberry.
special ingredient. And
Maggie made it.
Yes,
She's
here at
amazing.
the Citrus Club with a cotton candy pink
Isn't that
rim.
cool? I know the lighting's funny, but
Oh my
I don't know
gosh.
what's going on there with that.
I mean, I wish you guys could see it. It is delicious,
It's
though.
delicious.
I mean,
Stella
I probably-
says hi, and she doesn't know why you haven't said hi back.
Stella,
Your
my
Stella.
daughter. Oh, yes. Oh, hi, Stella.
You gotta say hi to Ethan too.
Hi, Ethan.
There you go. Dan posted
Love
that.
you both. All.
So we want to leave people with, because your story is, I've tried not to get, I got choked up a couple of times, so
So good.
we're trying to, I just felt like you have the positive attitude to have a discussion that's coming seriously from you experiencing it, and you're in the throes of it, and that can be so powerful for people who are also going through it, just got diagnosed, maybe on their second round of chemo, they're in the reconstruction.
Right.
There are so many stages that you mentioned, and everybody could be in that and thinking, this is awful, how am I supposed to get through it? So I appreciate, first of all, bravery for sharing. Thank you so
Thank you,
much.
Ted. Thanks for
Absolutely
having me.
beautiful.
Anytime I get to come here and sit with you and have a drink is a
I love it. We're going to make a whole day of it, Dan. She'll be home later, maybe. she's gonna stay. I have later hostess for later. We'll talk about that on another day. But I really appreciate you taking the risk and coming out, because it is such a personal journey, like you mentioned before. And so some people are not comfortable talking about it. And I wish that, I feel like if people can connect with someone who's gone through it, it's empowering. Oh my God, that there's hope.
Right.
A lot of people lose hope,
Right.
not just with cancer diagnoses, it could be anything.
Exactly.
And they lose hope, and that's why what we do I try to do on the show is give people's perspective, because somebody might be going through the exact same thing or similar.
Right. And so for me, like, I definitely think having a strong support system is key. I mean, above all, my faith, I don't, that for me was very, very uplifting. And just getting involved with organizations like the Pushing Pink Elephants organization was tremendously helpful. I mean, they have members there that have loved ones, or they themselves are going through cancer or recurrence, and can be a source of encouragement and support. And I think, on the way here, I was thinking, I really do want to give back and get involved, and I'm at a place now where I feel I could do that. I mean, I do have to have one more surgery, but, I think that one will go pretty easy compared to everything else. So I plan to be, by like second week of November, I'm going to be looking for and trying to, get more involved in doing things. But on the way here, I was thinking, like, whatever your struggle, your challenge, your tragedy is, I think if you get ahead of it, and by that I mean if you become involved, like, in it, whether it's like people that are struggling with addiction and, like, volunteer, do something at AA if you're, something, like, I think you need to get ahead of it and get involved with it, because it is going to consume your life otherwise. And really, you are the only person that can give, fear or failure to your situation. And you can determine that, and you feel so out of control because, like, you can't predict cancer and you can't really control cancer, but you can control, like, what you do with your life in having cancer and how you respond, and what you want to do to make an impact or, to give back. And so I think for me, like, right now, my focus is going to be on, okay, like, especially with insurance companies, because they don't want to do anything about prevention.
No, I don't get that.
And that's the most terrible thing. It's like, like I was telling you earlier, they're going to check my blood, my tumor markers for breast cancer, but what if I have a pre-cancer cell that develops somewhere else?
Right.
They're not going to test for that unless I have a symptom, and then it's like, okay, well then we're back in the treatment plan mode.
Right.
It's like survivorship planning should be covered more heavily by insurance companies. So that's something that I've talked to my friend Tammy about, and that I'd really like to get more involved with doing. It's just, check yourself. It's not fun. They don't feel good. But my OBGYN said, if you want to keep them, you got to touch them. So,
there's something there.
It's unfortunate, but
it is. It's totally
fill yourself
but
up if
you
your
have
husband
to.
doesn't.
If you're poor Dan, you are a blessing.
Oh, thank you.
I love you.
So much.
Love you. What a fantastic. We're out. Not like this is going to be our last one, by the way. You guys have been amazing. You always are. But thank you for supporting Christina. Thanks for watching. I'll post her whatever she wants me to post, or URL, or things that she thinks that you should see. You can reach out to her on Facebook. I'll show that too. But you have been amazing, and I appreciate that. This is such an important topic to talk about, and to find somebody who's got the experience and the willingness to share. It's still, you should give yourself kudos, because it's a brave thing, and it's your journey, and to be able to share it is amazing.
Yes.
We love you guys. Thank you so much for all the birthday wishes. I got to keep doing that because I haven't gotten everybody yet.
Happy birthday,
you all,
Ted.
thank
I get
you.
to see you 2 days in a row.
That's right, 2 days in a row. You all are amazing and wonderful. Rose Kemp says pink power. I know, it's a little light. I don't know what happened.
Well,
Forget it. It's angelic, I think.
I know.
Our little angelic auras are all over us. That is not
right.
what's happening. We love you. Have a great weekend. Thank you so much. We love you so much. And we'll talk to you
Bye.
soon.
Push pink. Push pink. Pinktober. Do I have to buy?